We did leave one member out. Make it 3 because we're going to uniform reveal here in just a moment. But we have one last roster member. A local talent, a courageous cancer survivor. A devastating battle fueled by radiation and chemotherapy for 1 calendar year. Cost an entire school year. An athlete whose calling is far greater than wins and losses, but she's won a bunch. Let's meet honorary PG All-American Casey Harp.
Really, cancer is something that comes into your life unexpectedly. One day, you just kind of wake up and it's there, you're told it's there, and you don't really know what it is. You're kind of confused and really scared that you don't know what this thing is going to do to you.
We didn't know if she was going to survive or not. You know, we would tell her that she was going to survive, but really we didn't know if she was going to survive or not. She had a very aggressive cancer.
It's something that comes into your life and just completely eats it away and ruins it. And it takes the person that you are and it kind of just swallows it and it breaks you.
You have to be strong for her. Like when she looked you in the eye, you had to have a believable face back to her, because we couldn't tell her it was going to be okay and then we didn't have a believable face. We had to be strong for her, but you know, we would cry in the car on our own and never in front of her.
Each morning, my dad would wake me up at 6 and we'd be out here at 6 in the morning. I'd be on the equipment doing my short bursts of cardio and resistance bands, and it definitely wasn't a pretty sight. It wasn't your fitness girl working out here in the gym. It was a lot of tears, a lot of pain.
As we got into it about a month, we were hooked up with a triathlete that had done an Ironman a few months after beating terminal cancer. And he kind of set me on the road of how we should work out. So it was done with a lot of, it was controlled, really controlled. Just the determination that you would see on here. And, 90% of the time I was okay with it. And then there was a couple of times he pushed beyond what even I thought was possible.
I kind of just went into this mindset that I have to beat it. There is no other option for me than to beat cancer. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die at 13 years old. I'm going to let cancer come into my life and I'm going to beat it. I'm going to be stronger. There were so many moments like that where I would wake up and I would cry for a couple minutes, and then my dad would talk to me. He would sit on my bed and say, "You have to do this." And eventually I'd come to. It didn't really take me that long because I realized that this was necessary for me to beat cancer. I had to be out here. I had to be working out. I was able to beat cancer because of it. That would be what they strapped me down to the table with, and these parts here would lock into the table so I couldn't move. This mask is kind of an inspiration for me out in the gym. I look up at it when I'm lifting weights or when I want to do like one more set but I can't really muster up the strength to do it. I look up at that mask and see what I was and see the person that I was back then when I was strapped into that mask, and it kind of helps me motivate and get through my workouts.
Everybody in our community and our family just rallied around us and they helped us, and all the support has just been like amazing. Just knowing that you're not alone through this fight.
Rady's was a lifesaver to us. I mean, it's 20 minutes down the road. It was a fantastic hospital. We would go in on a Thursday for Casey's chemotherapy. We were there 3 days. We'd take a backpack, and you felt like you were going somewhere fun. You walked in there. I mean, you knew what you were going in for. You knew it was going to be a rough time, but the nurses, the doctors, the lady at the front desk who would schedule our appointments. I love her to this day. She calls me up to schedule Casey's scans, and we chat on the phone. And it is an incredible place. They make it feel like a home away from home.
It's awesome to see her helping other people, and she does a lot of stuff on the side too, and just direct communicating with other cancer patients, and giving them inspiration directly, but on a larger level, inspiring people. It's amazing to see.
I don't know why cancer didn't kill me, but it made me stronger. It made me into the person I am sitting here right now. And I'm kind of thankful that cancer came into my life, even though it was a horrific year that it took from me. It took so many things from me, but it also gave me a lot of things. Rady Children's Hospital has some of the most incredible people and staff you'll ever meet. I've met lifelong friends, not only as patients there, but as nurses. And the respect I have for my doctors and for my nurses and for all the staff at Rady's is more than I could ever explain in words. I am incredibly thankful for the role they played in my journey because they ultimately saved my life. They were the doctors that got my treatment plan together. They were the nurses that spent overtime delivering me medication, and they were the people that helped save my life. They played the biggest role in my journey. I can never thank them enough.
She plays soccer at the same level you guys play baseball. Arsenal is her team, but she's representing you here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the words of wisdom, the courage, honorary All-American Casey Harp.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Casey Harvey, and I'm 16 years old. I'm an incoming junior at Bishop's High School in La Jolla. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for having me here tonight to speak and share my story. As a former patient at Rady Children's Hospital, Peckham Center for Cancer and Blood Disorders, I know firsthand the impact of your hard work in raising money that directly benefits children treated. I know sometimes it's hard to get an understanding of the effects of your fundraising efforts. But if I can say one thing, I wouldn't be here without the help of people like yourselves. In 2014, I was 13 years old. I was nothing more than your typical 7th grade girl. I played soccer, I got good grades, and I loved to hang out with my friends. Soccer was actually a big part of my life that year, and I had trained all summer in the gym and at the track in preparation for the season ahead. I was thoroughly committed to be the best athlete I could be. But when I woke up one morning in early November, I knew something was not right. My face, the left side in particular, was extremely swollen and painful. It was a pain I had never felt before, and my intuition told me that something about this was very strange. The journey to find out what was actually wrong with me took about 2 weeks. It began in urgent care, included a dentist visit, a root canal, and then the emergency room. From the emergency room of our local hospital, I ended up admitted into Rady Children's Hospital and eventually had a small operation to supposedly clean out a suspected infection of my sinus cavity and take a biopsy to determine antibiotic dosage. After the operation, I was discharged from the hospital and went home to recover. On Sunday, November 16th of 2014, 2 weeks after the initial swelling symptoms, I attended my soccer team's game up in Orange County to show my support and tell my teammates and coach that I'd be back tomorrow practicing and ready to play. Our team was traveling to Orlando in 2 weeks to play at the ESPN Disney Showcase, and I was excited to get back on the field, back in the goal, and play some soccer again. After the game, my family and I made our way back to the parking lot and began our long drive home when my mom's phone rang. She answered, and it was one of the doctors from the hospital with my biopsy results. And it was that Sunday afternoon when I knew I'd never be the same. It was that day when I was told I had cancer. More specifically, I was diagnosed with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, which is one of the most rare and aggressive childhood cancers. Only about 350 kids are diagnosed with alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma each year, and most of them, unfortunately, due to the aggressiveness of the cancer, end up dying. My tumor was located in my left maxillary sinus cavity and had begun to grow into my upper jaw and behind my left eye socket. When I was first admitted into the hospital, I underwent a series of major scans, including an hour-and-a-half MRI, a full-body bone scan, a chest and lung CT scan, and a bone marrow lumbar puncture. During all these scans, the doctors were looking to see if my cancer had spread to any other part of my body. With alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, the beast, as it is known in the cancer world, grows incredibly fast, tripling in size every 3 weeks. But rhabdomyosarcoma is usually not caught until it is stage 4, which means that it spread throughout your entire body. But due to the fact my tumor was located in my face, we were able to catch it before it had spread, which is very rare. But I still had to actually defeat the beast, and the battle was not going to be an easy one. My first week in the hospital as an official cancer patient was a very strange experience. I was admitted on the Monday and the day after the phone call. I had 4 days of testing in preparation for the upcoming treatment, and I received my first dose of chemo on that Friday evening. My 42-week VAC treatment protocol consisted of 42 rounds of intense chemotherapy, as well as 33 rounds of proton radiation. I received my treatment at Rady Children's Hospital, Peckham Center for Cancer and Blood Disorders. I would go into the hospital outpatient clinic once every week to receive a single dose of chemotherapy through a porta cath sewn on the inside of my chest. However, every third week, I would stay overnight for about 3 to 4 nights at a time and receive a cocktail consisting of 3 different chemotherapy drugs. During my overnight stays, I was in so much pain that I was sedated every time for the entire duration of the stay, so that instead of constantly throwing up from chemo, I could just sleep through the pain. I wouldn't eat for about 5 days at a time because my stomach was so weak and so sensitive that I couldn't hold down food. After I would receive inpatient chemotherapy, it often took me several days to recover, and once I finally started to feel better, it was usually time for the next round of chemo. I concurrently underwent 8 weeks of proton radiation therapy. Every day for 8 weeks, I would go to the new proton radiation facility here in San Diego. I would get strapped and locked down into a metal table with a mask that covered my whole face down to my shoulders. It would take the radiation oncologist about an hour to set up the radiation beam, and only about 45 seconds for the actual beam to radiate my face. I was receiving the German protocol for the amount of radiation, which means I was receiving an extremely high dose. The increase in dosage gave me a greater chance at killing all the cancer cells and decreasing the chance of relapse at the tumor site. But the higher dosage of radiation caused an increase in severity of the side effects. My face was covered in open burns. I had a huge open burn under my left eye. My burn had to be redressed and cleaned out every day by the nurses at the radiation facility, which was a very unpleasant experience. I also had sores in my mouth, up my nose, in my sinus, and inside my eyelid. Those 33 rounds were quite possibly the worst weeks of my entire life. It was an extremely painful experience, but it gave me a fighting chance at beating cancer in the long run. At the beginning of chemo, when I was first diagnosed, my dad and I both came to the agreement that I would continue to work out throughout my treatment at our home gym. Not only did I want to remain as physically strong as possible during treatment, I wanted to have the opportunity to continue doing the sports I loved upon the completion of treatment. The day after I got home from the hospital after my first week-long stay, receiving my first dose of chemotherapy, my dad had me running miles on the treadmill, lifting weights and hitting boxing bags. Little did we know that just after one round of chemo, it had already begun to wreak havoc on my heart, lungs, and nerves in my legs. From a girl who was the fittest at her school, not being able to get myself through running 1 mile was the first sign that this chemotherapy was going to destroy my body, more than I could have ever imagined. Since repetitive running on the treadmill and lifting heavy weights just wasn't a possibility due to the intensity and brutality of my treatment protocol, we needed a different approach. During the beginning of my treatment, my family was placed in contact with a man by the name of Clay Tresca. Clay was a stage 4 terminal cancer survivor who completed the Hawaiian Ironman just 4 months after completing his own chemotherapy treatments. Clay now works at UCSD Moores Cancer Center, the same hospital that saved his life, and was able to help my dad and I conduct a training regime that would accommodate the damage chemo had already done to my body. Instead of lifting heavy weights and running long distances, I used resistance bands and balance boards for my muscles, and then short bursts of cardio to increase my heart rate while hooked up to a monitor. This increase in heart rate would help circulate the chemotherapy through my blood and pump it away from my heart as quickly as possible to reduce the amount of chemo-induced damage. I also trained with Gino Cinco, a well-renowned physiotherapist, to local professional athletes and triathletes. Gino designed specific exercises that targeted my balance in an effort to counteract neuropathy caused by vincristine chemotherapy. Often when people heard I was working out through chemo, I don't think they fully understood what it looked like. It was extremely mentally and emotionally grueling. It was not easy, and it sure was not pretty. There were times where I would throw up from walking 30 seconds on the treadmill, or times when during radiation, My burn on my face would come in contact with my sweat and cause the most excruciating pain I have ever felt. I worked out before chemo, I worked out after chemo, I worked out during radiation, and I worked out on the days that I never thought it would be possible to get out of bed. It was not easy for me, and it sure was not easy for my dad, who had to help me through these workouts. But ultimately, they were the secret as to why I was able to come back so strong after cancer. Working out helped prevent neuropathy, weak heart muscles, decreased appetite, all caused by chemo. Instead of 15 anticipated blood transfusions, I just needed 1 transfusion. I also avoided a feeding tube and being confined to a wheelchair. Going back to my treatment itself, it lasted 42 rounds, which accumulated to almost a whole year of intense chemotherapy and radiation. That year of my life, I learned things about myself I never thought I would learn. I found out I was stronger than I ever imagined, that I could endure things that a lot of people could not. I stared death in the face and I walked away alive. Not only did I walk away alive, I walked away a stronger person. I walked away knowing I could do absolutely anything. When I completed chemo on September 10th of 2015, my life had begun again. I had a second chance to live, and I wasn't going to waste it sitting around being ordinary when being a cancer survivor had given me the opportunity to be extraordinary. As of today, I am almost 3 years cancer-free. I am almost back to the girl I knew before cancer. With my hair growing back and my athletic abilities returned, I feel like the old Casey, but stronger. Due to my exercise routine during treatment, I was able to return to all my activities I participated in before chemo and more. I know a lot of people in the childhood cancer community who have been diagnosed with the same cancer I had and went through the same treatment protocol as me and came out of treatment in wheelchairs, unable to walk. So to say, I have been able to accomplish so much physically after cancer, I am very proud of myself. Just 12 weeks after completing treatment, I was back on the soccer field playing the sport that ultimately got me through cancer. I was nowhere close to where I wanted to be, but I had begun my journey to gaining back strength and confidence. After treatment, in my freshman year of high school, I ran on my school's varsity cross-country team. I also ran my first half marathon a year post-treatment and earned myself a time of 1 hour and 47 minutes. I was also selected to attend the New Zealand National Under-17 Squad Camp in 2016, and last summer I was able to travel to Sweden and represent the United States in the 2017 Gothia Youth World Cup, where our team placed 9th out of 160 teams in our age division. Besides soccer, last November I competed in an obstacle course Spartan race in North Lake Tahoe. I raced 17.5 miles up 2 mountain summits and placed in the top 10 for my age division. Looking back on all the things I've accomplished since cancer, I often find myself forgetting I had cancer in the first place. Although sometimes some side effects from treatment present themselves, I'm thankful every time I play a game, run a race, and get up every morning. I don't know who I would be without the support of my friends and family behind me. I don't know who I would be without the doctors and nurses that saved my life. I don't know who I would be without the approach to treatment that I took on. I think it's important to continue to take every day like it's my last, play every game like it's my last, and breathe every breath like it's my last. Because until diagnosed with something like cancer, you never know how quickly your life can change. But I'm alive, and I'm fortunate enough to call myself a cancer survivor. I do not believe I would be alive here today if it wasn't for the Peckham Center at Rady Children's Hospital. The doctors, the oncologists, the surgeons, the nurses, they all saved my life. But the hospital only functions at its outstanding level because of organizations like the Perfect Game, helping support it by fundraising, donating money, and bringing awareness to the community. Giving back seems like such a simple concept, when in reality it's so much deeper. People spend their time and efforts in raising money for a hospital full of kids they don't even know. All of you guys here have put so much effort in, so much time, and so much heart into raising money for a hospital full of kids you don't know. Rady Children's Hospital saves lives every day. Rady Children's Hospital saved my life. I'm only standing here, alive, because of it, because of the work you guys do. Lives are saved. Many athletes that play in tomorrow's game at Petco Park will go on to even bigger and better things. Many of you will become professional players in the major leagues. Never forget your roots and your values. The Perfect Game All-American Classic does an amazing job at introducing you all to giving back to local communities and causes like the Peckham Center. I watched you all yesterday as you put smiles on children's faces, like the young boy in the red push car, as you genuinely interacted with him and signed cards for him. A young boy with tubes coming out of him, hooked up to fluids and monitors. Never forget the direct impact you all have and have already had on children being treated at the Peckham Center, both simply by giving a smile or a photo opportunity, or by raising money that directly impacts those children's futures by giving them a future. So as you continue to move on in your lives, just remember how much of an impact you have made by participating in fundraising through this event. Before I go, I'd like to close with a quote I really like. I feel like it really embodies the hearts of people like you all and signifies the importance of helping others. People who really want to make a difference in the world usually do it in one way or another. I've noticed something about people who make a difference in the world. They hold the unshakable conviction that individuals are extremely important, that every life matters. They get excited over one smile. They are willing to feed one stomach, educate one mind, and treat one wound. They aren't determined to revolutionize the world all at once. They're satisfied with small changes. Over time, though, the small changes add up. Sometimes they even transform cities and nations, and yes, the world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Casey Harvey.